Welcome back to The Pulse. With us now here today at our studios is a registered nurse and is a candidate for the Nevada State Senate District 3, Geo Hughes. Geo, thank you for joining us today here at The Pulse.
Well, thank you, Joe and Sam, for having me here today.
It's our pleasure.
Please tell our viewers about you and before we go into the questions.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, I'm a registered nurse. I am a practicing nurse practitioner, but always a nurse first. I work in critical care, and my specialty is cardiovascular and thoracic. So if you have a family member or a person that has cardiac surgery or needs the ICU, like we did in 2020, quite a bit of us, I run part of the ICU and I take care of the patients there.
Where in Las Vegas is Senate District 3? Give us some idea about, like street boundaries.
Sure. Senate District 3 is a little complicated. It goes from Ann Road at the very top, down at the bottom is DI, so that's pretty easy. Over on the east side, it is Rancho and the I-15. On the west side, this is where it gets a little complicated. It looks like a little sailboat. So Buffalo, I know, and then it comes in, and then it goes back up to Buffalo. So a little sailboat in and out.
Oh, okay. I understand you are challenging an incumbent, a fellow Democrat, State Senator Rochelle Wen. What's going on in the labor sector that you have the endorsement in some labor unions to challenge Rochelle Wen in this primary?
Well, I love that question because I get asked it a lot. As a nurse at the bedside during COVID, I was part of National Nurses United, and I was what you would call in most unions a shop steward. In NNU, or National Nurses United, we call it a representative. So when a nurse was called by management for any kind of reason, they would ask my help to help represent them or to help talk to management with them. During that time, though, one of the big things that happened was we were having some difficulty getting masks and getting what's called the personal protective equipment. I'm sure you heard of PPE, right?
PPE, yes.
Sure. So in our hospital, it wasn't any different. We were having a lot of difficulty, and so we had to stand up and fight for our rights for protection.
Yes.
And during that fight, I did help with some nurses, get everybody organized. Eventually, the managers decided that it was okay to give us the masks, the nurses, but not to the people who worked in the kitchens, not to the people who cleaned, not to the people who pushed our patients, all of our team members. So I helped with a couple of nurses to get everybody together and organize basically informational picket. We called out to all the unions. We called out to culinary, to IBW, to the teachers, to fire, you name it, we called everybody. And we got everybody to come out and let the community know that we were being treated unfairly. And so at that point, our hospital responded and gave everybody the masks. So, that took, some of the labor folks took notice. And so fast forward to last legislative session when, unfortunately, the incumbent, she pushed a couple of bills that were anti-labor, one of them being a guest room, daily room cleaning repeal, part of a bill. And basically what that did is that forced 17,600 approximately, almost all women of color, that work as guest room attendants. Those are the cleaning ladies on the strip. They're some of the hardest working people. It is what our hotel's backbone is based on. So that had a potential of cutting 30% of that workforce. That's horrible. Absolutely horrible. It's deplorable, actually. Fortunately, Culinary Union is very strong, and in their contract, they were able to win that repeal back. But there's a lot of women, a lot of people that are not covered by different unions, and all those folks are still having to do what's called checkouts. That's the hardest part. That's just when people check in and out of the rooms, but not the upkeep. So we're asking them to do much more with less people, and you have to ask yourself, who gains? Okay, who gains from that? The hotels gained multiple million to billion dollars in profits, right?
I could imagine.
But we're hurting women of our community. Second part is there was another bill that was sponsored by our incumbent, and that was a bill where the Teamsters normally do deliveries of the beer and different things. For our local breweries, this bill that was sponsored by the incumbent, it was to circumvent the Teamsters and allow delivery by other than Teamsters. So that is why I have culinary, all 3 Teamsters, NSCA, which is the educators. I also have, of course, my own union, National Nurses
Yes.
United, United Food Workers, UFCW, which is grocery stores and cannabis stores. You know, they're backing me up, because if you're going to look for a labor candidate or somebody that represents our community,
Yes.
it's not going to be somebody who sides with corporations. It's going to be somebody who protects the community, like I did during 2020.
Yes. Well, it looks like you had already demonstrated to them and to your constituents your leadership quality in times of crisis, and it shows, you know. So, Joe?
So you work as an intensive care nurse. How's it going for you in the campaign trail?
So right now, I work with the cardiovascular and thoracic team, which is in the intensive care.
Okay.
I'm very fortunate to have a great team, and I've been able to move my hours. I work really, really early to be here today. I had to be there about 4:45, 5 o'clock. I had to start looking at my patients, and I do go back. But really, by the time the end of my workday ends, I'm able to canvas every day. I canvas after work, and then on my days off, I do canvas as well. And I meet or knock on about 30 to 50 doors when I work, and when I don't work, you better believe I'm hitting over 100.
I really appreciate, you know, what you're doing, and even coming here to the studio today. If you win in the primary and win in the general election, and given a choice of committee assignment for you, what would be your top choice of what committee you want to sit on?
So if I had an absolute any choice, Sam, oh my
Yes.
gosh, of course. I mean, I'm here for nurses, right?
Yes.
What more nursing, you know, what more advocate could there be as far as nursing is concerned than the nurse herself? And I know how difficult it is to work in without ratio. So Health and Human Services,
Yes.
absolutely. And I would very much so love to sponsor a bill for ratios. Not only will it protect nurses, but it will protect our community. There are studies out there that absolutely show that if you have a good ratio, that's the appropriate number of patients to nurse, that there is less of a mortality. People do better. People get treated better. Imagine your grandmother
Yes.
having to wait, or your mother having to wait 2 hours for water because the nurse has 8 patients.
I
It's
see.
just unconscionable, right?
Well,
So
that's-
we want to protect the community.
Absolutely, that's a good thing to, you know.
It's good to know.
To think about, you know.
So, Geo, what would you like to say to your voters out there? So this is your pitch.
Sure. Well, to the voters out there, you know, I came to this country. I had to learn how to speak English. My mom worked 2 jobs, and we delivered newspapers together when I was 9 years old. What that means to you and what that means to the community is that I know how to work hard, but I also know how hard people work. Once my mother got her union job, my life changed. My brother's a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. I'm a nurse
Wow.
practitioner. My sister got a degree in social work, and she works in the labor movement. So we've all been taught to serve by my mother, who has served her community for over 30 years. Not only does she work as a guest room attendant, which is why this fight is so personal to me, but she protected guest room attendants and every person on the strip, and she fought very hard for health care, for lowering the prices of health care and drugs, as the culinary is known for. So I am very, very excited to join the fight, to be up there, to be able to represent. There's no nurse up there in legislation. We're making all these healthcare
You'll
decisions.
be the first then.
Yes. So I think I'm very, very excited to get up there and be the next senator of Senate District 3.
Oh, well said. Yeah. Geo Hughes, candidate for State Senate District 3. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us today here at the polls. Good luck on your race.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
It was our pleasure.